Hey guys, so I get this question all the time on my blog, on Instagram, and from basically anyone who knows that I journal. It's basically, what journal should I get? And it's a really difficult question to answer because it really depends on what you need from a journal, what you use primarily, and what you require, basically. So I've gathered the three most common brands that I've heard people recommend to me and what I've kind of researched. They're going to be Moleskine, Leuchtturm1917, and Rhodia notebooks. And I'll go through the pros and cons of each one, and I'll show you guys a paper test with these materials on it to show you what will bleed through in terms of paper quality, which I think can be really helpful. So I'll start with the Moleskine, and I have two options for the Moleskine. I have the Moleskine Classic and the Moleskine Art Plus. So the Moleskine Classic, which is this guy right here, the pros and cons is got a really high page count, which is pretty great. It's really easy to find. You can get it at almost any Chapters, Indigo, Barnes & Noble, any kind of bookstore you can find these at. It comes in a variety of cover colors. I've always picked the black, of course, but even those like special collector's ones. And it also has blank, ruled, dot, and grid to guide you along. So in terms of paper quality, this is a huge con. The paper quality is just absolute garbage. You can see here, I'll bring it up close, how in the fountain pen section you kind of see how it feathers. And everything else, this is kind of what I use, and I'll show you what bleeds through. And the answer is basically everything. So you can see even ballpoint pen will bleed through. And you'll see it on the opposite side. And not only does it bleed through, but it actually bleeds to the page opposite. That's from the Copic. So, Moleskine Classic is the journal that a lot of people choose as their first one because it's so easy to find, and then they get really frustrated with this. So I definitely think that if you want to hold out for something that's a little bit sturdier in terms of paper quality, to look into some of these other brands. So next one, Moleskine Art Plus. This is actually the one I use most often. It's got much better paper quality, like you can hear it. And the pros for this one, paper quality is much better. That's a huge pro, and I'll show you guys just how much better it is. The con, however, is that they're not as easy to find. You can still find them much better than others. Most specialized art stores have them, some stationery shops have them. And unfortunately, it doesn't come in the grid, the ruled, or the lined, which makes sense because it's considered a sketchbook. So if you really like those as guidelines, then unfortunately this one is not going to be the best for you. But you can always either paste in something that will help you, or just have your writing go off on a slanted line, which is what I do all the time. So in terms of paper quality, this is, again, I use all the same stuff. And here's how it fares on the other side. So much better. Copic, of course, will bleed through because it bleeds through everything. Sharpie, again, you can see. And then the watercolor and ink is pretty good. It kind of warbles if you use too much of it. You see how it does that. And I have had it bleed through when I use a lot of water, but usually it's pretty good. It can withstand almost anything. So that's a huge pro for the Moleskine Art Plus. And then next up, the Leuchtturm1917. This one, very common right now to find, especially with the like bullet journal craze going on. It's very easy to find, which is great. It comes in a lot of colors. This is a little mini one. I had a full-size one, but I just wasn't really using it, so I ended up with a little mini. Just like the Moleskine, it comes in the dot grid, aligned, all that kind of thing. So it's great for that. It comes with the two little guideline thingies, ribbons, and it's pretty great. It's got the numbered pages, roughly the same page count as the Moleskine, and in terms of paper quality, you can see here, it's better than the Moleskine Classic by a long shot. You can see how it doesn't feather, but in terms of ghosting, it's not that great. It's better than the Moleskine Classic, definitely, but you can see plenty of it does ghost through, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to like this one. So yeah, Leuchtturm1917, It's definitely a good in-between journal for if you don't want to deal with the Moleskine Classic and its terrible quality. But in terms of bullet journaling, I definitely recommend the Rhodia notebooks. Roughly the same size. It's actually a little bit wider. Comes in the exact same grid, lined, ruled, whatever. It doesn't have the numbered pages, unfortunately. It only comes in black that I found. I think I found one that was orange, but so far I think black is much more common. And they come in lots of different types, like little flip books and stuff like that. The paper quality, it's Clairefontaine paper, which is considered like one of the best that you can find, specifically made for heavier materials, and specifically for the fountain pen. So the paper is very, very smooth, and it's got almost no tooth to it at all, and it takes pen very well. So you can see, it looks really good on the page it's actually meant to be. And in terms of ghosting, it's pretty good. Visibly better than the Leuchtturm and the Moleskine. So Copic, again, everything will bleed through. Sharpie as well. And then the watercolor and ink, which I don't really use very often in this journal. You'll kind of see it, but not nearly as much as the others. And markers, it takes markers really well. The con for this journal, though, is that it's much harder to find. I've only found it at one store in my area, but you can get it online for roughly the same price as a Moleskine or a Leuchtturm. So, so yeah, I personally, in terms of bullet journaling, I definitely recommend the Rhodia. In terms of art, I would recommend the Moleskine Art Plus because it takes everything very well. And if you want to do a lot of collage work and you really want a high page count, then the Moleskine Classic is pretty good because that's what I use it for. I use it mainly for pasting things in. So, so those are the four that I've tried. Obviously, there's tons more out there. These are just the four that I think are fairly easy to find, fairly common, and the most recommended. So I hope that helped you out. And yeah, thanks so much, guys. And I hope this was useful to at least one person.